Welcome back to another edition of Husker Huddle here at the Husker Sports Network. I'm your host, Jeremiah Searles. Today we are joined by former honorable mention All Big 12 defensive end. Did a stint in the NFL with the Jacksonville Jaguars for a while. My friend Zach Potter, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Excited. Football season's kind of back here in Lincoln. It's good to have things rocking and rolling, but that was a fun game 2 weeks ago against Ohio State. Sadly not against Wisconsin, but excited for Northwestern this week. So we're just rolling right along here in Lincoln.
Yeah, I know it's an interesting year. I'm just happy that we're having football, and we can at least have the conversation. You know, I think we were probably being a little naive if we thought we'd get through all 9 football games, and so it's just kind of unfortunate the way this one played out a little bit. I think the worst case is, I mean, really with whole Wisconsin is that they kind of canceled on us compared to the Big Ten saying, no, you have to cancel. So, you know, there's been a lot of talk of should we've gotten a win for a forfeit, or, you know, how that should have been. That's some valid conversations there for sure.
Absolutely. It's going to be it's been interesting for every level, every league, but I think the more hyper focus on the Big Ten just because of how it was of trying to get it scheduled and Nebraska being at the forefront. But again, at the end of the day, I'm just glad we're going to get to see our boys hopefully run out there on the field Saturday in Everson against a pretty good Northwestern team.
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing that's been the most surprising so far is, you know, you see some of the records of some of the teams in the Big Ten, especially our division, and even though we're 0-1, our loss is probably to the best team in the Big Ten. So you don't want to say we have a good shot at still winning everything, because we do, but yeah, you don't want to get, you know, the cart before the horse too well. But I think you know, what you've seen in the first 2 weeks shows some promise of what we could do, and hopefully, you know, maybe we use this past bye week to our advantage, and we're fresher and we come out and, you know, play well.
Absolutely, I agree. And Zach, I want to get your thoughts on this, and we'll get into what you're up to now and everything that we've been doing here on the Husker Huddle segment. But with Nebraska football being at the forefront, I watched that Penn State-Ohio State game on Saturday night, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I thought Nebraska played them better than Penn State did. Granted, the score did not mirror that outcome, obviously, but just overall, if we didn't have those glaring turnovers and we didn't have to shoot ourselves in the foot, I thought we matched up against Ohio State physically better than Penn State did.
Yeah, I mean, you know it as well as I do. The score does not always tell you the whole picture of a football game, and you know, like you said, some of those penalties and some of those things in the first game that really hurt us are things that could have easily been turned something differently. And I think, you know, what I saw in that week 1 game against Ohio State, against a really, really good Ohio State team, I think, like you said, the Penn State-Ohio State, we easily could have played them a little better, and we'll get our shot against Penn State a little later this year to kind of see how that matches up. I said all along, you know, with Nebraska playing Ohio State week 1, I would rather play them week 1 than week 6. And obviously I would have preferred to play Wisconsin this past week and then kind of go into our season a little bit more, but because it would be a little bit more telling. But, you know, like I just kind of said, in a way, having a bye week after a game like that, you know, the biggest thing is I just hope that, you know, we continue to get to this stage if we don't have any COVID tests, you know, positive tests this week. Same thing with Northwestern, because, you know, with us already having 1 game down, we want to make sure we can get as many games as we can, you know, to get to this. So it's going to be interesting to see ultimately what happens with Wisconsin this upcoming week. I think they have Purdue, if I'm not mistaken, and to see if they're going to play that game even, because, you know, I think at the beginning of the year, I think to qualify for the Big Ten championship, you had to play like 5 or 6 games. And so with us and Wisconsin already down 1, where's that going to go? And how is that going to affect not only our season but other people's seasons as this, you know, COVID-19 season progresses?
I mean, it's just classic 2020, right? Just more questions than answers. Everyone's kind of throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks. But I'm just, again, we'll circle back to the fact that we're just excited the boys are playing. So, Zach, what have you been up to during these COVID times? And really kind of let's catch up a little bit along the lines of what have you been doing since you finished your stint there in the NFL?
Yeah, so I officially retired, I guess 2014 would have been when I finally got cut by the Houston Texans in 2014. And then I got into the audio-visual integration business, so in sales. So we sell equipment for conference rooms, boardrooms, think projectors, TVs, control systems, video walls, kind of all that good stuff. So that's what I've been doing the last 6 years as far as work-wise. My wife and I have almost been married 10 years now. We got 3 little kids. We're 6, 5, and 2 right now. Getting ready to tick over. We'll be 7, 5, and 3 here in a matter of 2 months. Don't think we had any like Irish twins or anything like that. They're all 2 years apart for sure, and for good reason. So I've been busy with kids and just trying to stay in connection and involved with sports as much as I can, from a high school standpoint to college to the NFL, and really just, as you know, people always ask me all the time, like, who do you cheer for now? And I became an NFL guy. I love college football ultimately, but I love Sundays. I love Thursday nights, Monday nights, sometimes more than Saturdays. And really, it's because I think I still know so many people that are playing, whether it's coaches, athletic trainers, you name it, that are still on NFL rosters that are still having success.
Are you like me, Zach, in the fact that, do you have the Red Zone channel?
I do. So
it's the only way to watch NFL football. You can't convince me.
You don't.
Otherwise.
So I have Direct TV. So I have Red Zone or Sunday Ticket, whatever it is. So I've had that since I retired, because ultimately, those first 2 years after, when I was not in Jacksonville, I was in St. Louis and Houston. I was just, I hate to say this, but I was watching all these games, not hoping, but waiting to see who the next tight end was that was going to get hurt, to see where could I be going on Monday or Tuesday for a tryout. You never want anyone to get hurt, but at the same time, it was a job. And so I was, looking at the waiver wire of seeing who's getting cut, who got hurt, where could I potentially go for a workout or something like that. And so that's what I do. I used to do, I should say. I don't do that anymore. Now I'm just that armchair quarterback or armchair tight end saying, God, I could make that block. Maybe I could still go play.
I've thought that numerous times watching some of the O-line play this year. I was like, man, I retired a year too early. And then I go like run around or something, my knee starts hurting. I'm like, yeah, I probably got out at the right time.
Well, you had the benefit though. I mean, as a tight end, there's only typically 1, 2 tight ends on the field predominantly.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you can get some goal line sets where you got 3 or 4, but as an O-lineman, there's at least 5 positions out there. And then, as you know, sometimes you guys come over and steal our pie a little bit and be a 6th offensive lineman.
Got to report.
Yeah, got to report. Do not forget to report and have a big gain and that flag's out and, hey, XYZ didn't report and that's coming back. You do not want that O-line coach talking to you after that happens.
That's a bad news. I want to get your thoughts here on, I've talked to a lot of former players. I talked to Matt Slauson, who was super fired up about it. You and I know Slaw well. But last week, or I guess last Sunday, not this past Sunday, Andy Dalton gets cleaned up by a sliding guy, and that Dallas offensive line really didn't do a whole lot. And I tweeted about it, and you being a tight end, you're an extension of the offensive line. And those guys, in my opinion, should all get cut and should all get moved on, because I know I'm most likely going to get ejected out of that game for trying to dirt stomp that guy for what he did to our quarterback. And then you go on to yesterday's game, and you watch Chicago's guy go out there and throw haymakers at this guy who insulted his teammate. And I think people are like, see, that's what happens. But I want to hear your perspective on when it's important to stand up for your guy, and also when it's important just to be a smart football player, not do dumb things.
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line, because like you said, that Dallas offensive line, who's in the past has always been one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And I know they've had some injury issues this year, so their guys they don't have their starting 5 out there as normal. But you see your quarterback, even your second string quarterback, Andy Dalton, who's been around the NFL for a long time. You have to go protect him. That's your job as an offensive lineman, as a tight end. You're not going to have the wide receivers and the running backs coming out there to protect you, but that's what our job is to do, is to protect the quarterback. And you see a cheap shot like that and a guy just go knock him out, you have to go protect him. Whether that's you try, and I always said, if you're going to get in a fight, try and get as many people in that fight as possible, so they can't eject the whole team.
Right.
Don't just go one-on-one, because then you're going to get rejected, but you try and as I always like to use the word, we're going to burn the boats. Like, everybody come on in. We're not turning back. Let's just go attack. Let's get the fight. Let's go win it, and protect our guy, because that's if you don't have a quarterback, and even, you saw the Cowboys last night probably with their third string quarterback, it's just different. That's why these second string quarterbacks or backup quarterbacks are still getting paid multiple $1 million a year, because if you don't have a quarterback, your whole season can go, off the tracks really quickly. And even though there's 16 games to be played, every one of those matters in the NFL season. Same thing in college too. But I think to answer your question though, it is a fine line, because if you do get ejected, or if you're just doing a one-on-one battle like you saw this weekend, Chicago, I mean, you're just causing attention to yourself, and you're going to get ejected. Okay, you're going to get a FedEx envelope in your locker Monday.
Here's Monday morning, baby, right there on the chair.
Fine. Yeah, I mean, you're just giving away money. That's why I always say, if you're going to get in a battle, go to battle with a lot of people, because they're not, sometimes the NFL will fine everybody, but they're not going to eject everybody. It just, and you see quarterbacks, and you never want to say, oh, you've seen movies or something where they don't go protect the quarterback for whatever reason. Maybe they had something, maybe they don't like the quarterback, or maybe they want the second guy to be in there. No matter what, you got to protect your quarterback.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's shift gears a little bit here before we let you out of here. Talk a little bit about this Husker defensive line. This was a huge question mark coming into this season. You put 3 guys in the NFL. Davis twins, Daniels is now playing too. And so there was just huge question marks. I thought the front 5 played very well against Ohio State. I thought Stilley played really well. The guy I'm really excited about, and I'd like to hear your take, is Ty Robinson. I thought he played very physical, but what did you think about this Nebraska front playing both the position of defensive line? And then I also want to hear your thoughts on how big it is to lose Jack Stoll and the importance of Austin Allen in this Husker team.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's always kind of the fun thing for me. I remember when I was going into my junior year, we had lost Adam Carricker, Jay Moore, Ola Daganduro, Barry Cryer, and we had basically a brand new defensive line. And so you take it upon yourself as a challenge as a D lineman because as well as I do, and everybody knows this, games are won up front, offensive line, defensive line. You got to have all the other skill sets, but if you can't protect your quarterback like we just talked about, or you can't rush the passer and get some pressure on the quarterback, it's going to be a long, long day. Doesn't matter what level of football you're at. So you got to have a good O-line, D-line. And so I was very, very impressed with the ability that our defense as a whole and D linemen showed against Ohio State. Like I said earlier, the score, that's one thing, but I just love seeing the aggression and the physicality that I think our D had against Ohio State. A couple of those targeting calls, I mean, were they targeting? Yes, but at the same time, I'd rather see that aggression. And because I've said all along, targeting is one of the hardest things to combat these days. I'm thankful that when I got to the NFL, I switched to tight end, because I don't know what these guys on defense are supposed to do anymore to not get a flag. And so you try, and I love seeing how physical they were. On the other side, I think the greatest thing that Nebraska has going for it now is the tight end depth that they have now and coming up in the recruiting class coming up. And so you look at what Coach Frost and Coach Lubes are doing as an offense. They're incorporating the tight ends, Stoll and Allen, these guys, and at the same time recruiting to the guys that we have signed on to come on in the next year or two as part of recruiting classes. The tight end position has evolved so much, especially I think at the college level, and what they can do as far as motion and getting reads for man zone and causing mismatches. You have to have a good stable of tight ends, whether they're just pass catching guys or guys that were just blocking tight ends like I ended up switching to create different mismatches from linebackers to secondary guys that are going to come up and guard you. And so I think it's really neat to see the involvement that I think we're going to continue to see from the tight end position under this new offense coordinator that we have in Lubes, and seeing what he's going to do going forward against other teams. Now, obviously, not having the game this past weekend against Wisconsin, we only have one game of film out there, so we still have this week looking forward against Northwestern. They don't 100% know what we're going to do. I don't like seeing where people are saying, did they hold back parts of the playbook for Northwestern? No, no one holds back parts of the playbook for the game. But there might be different wrinkles of the playbook of, hey, we saw this against Ohio State. We've seen Northwestern guard against this way. How can we use these guys offensively differently? And the same thing looking back on the defensive side, what blitzes could we do against them? Because we have 2 games of self-scout on Northwestern where they only have 1 against us against Ohio State. So in a way, I don't want to say we're at an advantage because we've only played 1 game, but in a way we can be.
Absolutely. Well, Zach, I want to thank you so much for your time here and taking a minute to talk with us here on Husker Huddle. Hopefully when things get back to normalized, I'll get to see you back at the stadium like we did a few times. We'll catch up, go down the rail yard, have a beer, and hopefully celebrate some more victories. We'll see the Huskers take on the field of Evanston against the Northwestern Wildcats this week. Zach, before we let you go, anything you want to say to Husker Nation?
Just go Big Red and have all the faith in these coaches that they're doing. They're setting the culture right. It's taking time, more time than I think a lot of us would like it to, but we're going to get there, and we got the right guys to do it for sure.
Absolutely. Appreciate you let's join here on Husker Huddle, and I'll see you guys next week.